Good morning, traders. Welcome to the daily webinar. We're in my trading room right now. So we were discussing the euro, and I'll probably give a quick update on the euro because there was a question also on YouTube. I think one of the traders asked why am I trying to sell it when it's at the bottom here? Here's the thing. I can see what you're saying, but it's a little away from the bottom. So let me just show you the structure we're looking at very quick. The structure we're looking at is potentially this one is a big contracting flat, because on the dollar index is a running flat. So the chances are this would probably come and break the low, right? We're looking at it this way. The weekly, see the weekly is there. The chances are we are going to break this low here before we go back up. So if I'm thinking of this pattern here, coming like this, doing this, going there, coming back here, we need to break that low, complete the whole structure, and then we will be at what we'll call a monthly or a weekly bottom. Now, how low can this thing go? Well, you can see that's a couple thousand pips, right? If I'm to draw a line here to show you within the structure, it doesn't mean it has to go there, right? But we normally gauge the structures this way, right? So you can look at it this way and say, okay, how far you think this thing can go? And definitely breaking this low is something we're looking at, right? Which means it will break this low and it could go much more. So how much more? You probably could, let's say from where we are right now to the bottom there, that's 388 pips. And if you bring it a little more, you could get about 1,000 plus pips. So there is more to go. That doesn't mean we're going to go in a straight line, but it means that we can take every flag or every correction we get to the downside, right? So go back to the 4 hour and we're coming down pretty nice. I think so far we've got that intact. There's no question there. Now it's starting to slow down. You can see the slowdown here, right? In the lower picture, but this correction here, we're in this impulse, we don't have divergences yet. Well, we might be getting slight divergence here in the 4 hour, but in the 1 hour, it's not there. We just checked it. But in the 1 hour, that divergence is going away, right? That is this last piece in the 1 hour. We don't have divergences, which means there might be another correction and another impulse to the downside before we have divergence and that thing actually turns, right? So it's more complex and there's a lot more factors that we looked at that when I'm doing YouTube videos for you guys, you don't get, right? Which is why traders ask me, so you said I can get your daily webinar if I go into your installment program, right? Which is you pay $100 or $200 a month and you're not paying for the webinars, just to inform traders who are asking, you're paying for the course. So you're kind of saving money up for the course. You're saving money up with us for the course. When you meet the cost of the course, you stop paying, you get lifetime access. And literally you get these daily webinars that are more detailed than what I put out on YouTube, right? Because sometimes we discuss in details all the opportunities and how we're going to trade them. So this is what we do. Yesterday we sold it. Let me just bring back very quick an update for the YouTube viewers. My traders, we did it. So bear with me a second. We had a sell here yesterday, put it on that trade. We sold it there yesterday. We closed the trade by all our rules of trade management. You should be out of that trade. And we put an entry here. But now we notice it's going up, right? It's kind of going up. So you get an impulse, you get a correction, you get an impulse, you're getting a correction, you probably get another impulse. Now, the question is, do we think this is going up for a really, really big correction? No, I don't think so. That's the point. If I thought that was going to be a really big correction, we'd probably be buying into it. But the impulses are really short. The corrections in it are really big. You can see that, right? So you get hours and hours of consolidation here. You get a very short impulse, big correction, short impulse, big correction. And this could even probably still stay here. It's not a fact that this is going to break out. And then you get another short impulse. When you get it like this, it's either a very slow start to a bigger correction, or either just a correction to drop, right? Now, if it's a very slow start to correction, we would wait for another flat that is telling us that, okay, that's a slow start. This is the correction. Now you can buy. My traders understood what I said there, right? So at some point, I would need a bigger correction that breaks out of this, and then we can look for that buy. Because now we know that, okay, this was the first impulse that was a very slow start. See? So if you're a YouTube trader and you watch what I just said, you got any bit of it. You've probably been following me a long time and you have an idea what wave analysis looks like, right? It's complex. It's not complicated. It's a complex structure you're looking at. It's not simple. It's not as simple as sometimes I make it look when I do my videos. It's very complex, but it's not complicated. You can break it up. You can look at it. You can see all the pieces, and then you can decide, do I want to trade this? So the question is, do we want to trade that to the upside? No. Do we want to trade to the downside? Yes, we put the entry order there. See? Immediately you put it. And there's a reason why we put it there. And then if two things can happen right now when you put it there, is that this breaks the top, and if that breaks the top, we will move the entry order. and it drops back to the bottom there. That's your trade, like this. That's your trade. Or, as one of my traders said, what if we're making a bigger correction? Well, if you make a bigger correction, they will, I mean, if this is the bigger correction, then it's going to drop like this. If it comes slowly, we will take this off. If it comes in one sharp move and start to go back up, we manage like this. We manage to get out, we get out. If not, it has to do this. It will come back here and then go. This is your exit strategy, because what you will have here is a bigger flat. First impulse up, flat, another impulse up, sell. See? Pretty simple. If you understand that, if you understand how patterns develop, you know when and where is your exit strategy, how you're going to manage this trade, right? At all times, you have a stop loss. That stop loss is your final, if everything goes wrong, didn't go the way you expected, that's your final point where you take the loss. That's the amount you've agreed to lose on any trade. I think in our group, and there's about 16 traders here who will not allow me to land it, there's very rare chance when we get stopped out on a trade. Right? That stop loss is like an insurance that you don't use, because we get out of trades when we figure out structures are changing, just like this one, right? We had a stop loss for this trade, but we're not taking a loss in that trade because we figure out the structure way before that happened and said, okay, get out of that trade. Based on the rules of your trade management, you're out of that trade for positive, and you're looking for your next trade, which means your capital is intact, right? You take precautions. You don't have to use the insurance. Let's go. I'll start the daily and start from here. It's same thing here. If you're taking this trade, you close it, it's making a correction. Now, again, can this be a deeper correction? And this is where I think we have to be careful. I think if you were listening to me yesterday, very careful. I said, when we start making these deep corrections like this, we might start look for a reversal point or a deeper correction. I don't think we're at the reversal point as yet. We have to get to this top before we can even think of a reversal point, and that is the top of the whole structure, which means when we break that top, then is when we'll consider. Normally, when they're at the end of a structure and it's going to finish, you will see them stretch it. You see this? They'll stretch the last piece. See that? They'll stretch the last piece. They'll stretch the last piece before they finish the structure. And that is why you tend to see wicks at the tops and the bottom of structure. The traders like to think those are pin bars they can trade, which is what is wrong with it, because you will get a lot of that inside of structure, but the end of it tend to get that stretch. So the question is this going to be that final stretch with very few deeper corrections and just very small corrections until you break the top, and then that reversal, right? We don't know. And the thing is, you don't have to know that. You're not in a guessing business. You follow what you get in the trade. We're getting some lower time frame divergence, 4-hour and 1-hour divergence. In the 1 hour, this last piece, that divergence might not be clear because this looks bigger, which means every flag we get will take, right? And if we think it's going to make a deeper correction, then we will consider whether we want to sell. So again, do you think this should be a good sell at this point? Now, it doesn't mean you can't sell it. It means you have to do it in a lower time frame, and you have to have the skill level to get out if it's not going. You can also do what we call reduce your risk, right? So when you're taking a trade that is of high risk, but it has potential for bigger, let's just assume for a second that it dropped like this now, right? So you got an impulse, you got a correction, you got an impulse, and then the next impulse just dropped. That is possible, right? It's not impossible for that to happen. And within this structure, that is really possible. But you can't just decide that, okay, well, this one might be the one that will drop, because you don't know. You can say, well, if there is a potential for it to happen, especially from where we are, if we're going to make a deeper correction to go, I'll put an entry here. I'll put a stop here, but then I need to know how to manage this. Just in case all it did is this, and it starts to come right back up. Now, do you have enough here to get out for break even? Do you have the skill level to get out for break even? Can you manage a trade like that? Can you take this loss if it comes here and then decide to go back up like that? So if you can answer yes to any of those questions or all of those questions, you might want to take the trade. Now, I think most of you on YouTube, if you're not, you don't have, if you have it, the skill level, great. But if you don't have it, you probably have difficulty. You might take a loss in a trade that you're not supposed to take a loss in. So for now, we're looking for the buy still. I still think this is potentially going to go up. But first, the next immediate small impulse should be to the downside. Break this low and then go back up. That's how I see it. Now, can it go from here? Well, there's a rare chance. I'm looking at this as an expanding flat. I don't want to go into so much details. There's a rare chance it goes up from here, but I think that's very rare. Most likely it's going to go down first, then come up. On the euro, you will see it clearer. So same here. If you took this trade, you close it. Well, this trade was here. It's the first option was here. We closed. You put a second option there. You closed it also because it's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, it was there for hours and hours. All those candles are hours and hours of on the same spot, which means it's not going anywhere. It's making a deeper correction. It's still a sell. As of now, this one you can only put under the low because it's just a series of candles going up. There's actually no last impulse up. It's just all the candles are going back into each other like that. At some point, it will make a flag like this, and then it will go back up. Now, this will be your last impulse, and then you will get this. So you can't take the chance of selling under the candles because you're going to get this and you're going to get that. This is your first piece up, and it's going really slow. Now, sometimes this is all the correction you get, and they literally do this and drop. So you can put an entry order here every time you see that. If it starts to make a bigger flag here, it's very unlikely it's going to tag this. As a matter of fact, by rule, if it makes a flag here and they come and they tag here, you shouldn't be worried because you're immediately thinking running flat. Why should I be worried? Put my stop here and pretty much I'm safe, right? Because all this becomes is a running flat. If it breaks the low in a correction, especially if this is a correction. Now, if it's a correction, it will take so much hours that you will also have time to remove the trade, figuring out that that's the B part, allow it to go back up, and then put the entry order for the sell. See? Now, all of that explanation is for YouTube. My traders know all that stuff already. So let's move on. Good. So same thing here. This was a sell. This was a sell. Those were good sells. You can actually put a sell here now. Is it going to break right now? Well, we'll figure that out during the day and tomorrow. If you just keep following for this weekend, you will probably pick up quite a lot. That doesn't mean you can trade them immediately because the trading part is much more difficult than the analysis that I'm showing you. Again, we're looking for sells here. Any sell opportunity here will take. I showed you that it's not going to happen so quick because we're in 1, 2, 3 sharp waves. So this a good sell opportunity here will be next week, most likely. Euro USD, same thing. We're selling. This one we can sell. I think they're correcting also. They're all correcting. These are very, very small up moves. These flags even are very small. So if they're going to be really bigger correction, let's assume that this whole thing is going to have a much bigger correction. What you'll find is that this is going to do this and then it will start to do something like this. If we see that, we will buy. That will not happen today. It might happen tomorrow, but if we see that, we'll buy. Because then we'll assume that this is the first impulse. That's the correction and we're going up and you'll get something like that. If not, this thing will just drop. So put your entry order. You don't have to worry about the entry orders, right? Put the entry order. If it drops, good first. If it doesn't drop, then why worry? We'll wait for that flag and then we'll take the trade to the upside. Aussie, you could have taken to the upside here. There was a flag here because this was really sharp. This is what I'm talking about, right? You get this sharp move up, right? See that? And then you start to get this sideways here, right? This is the sign you're going to go more. Now, this is still relatively sharp. It's still the impulse, and on the 1 hour, that's a single impulse, and the 4 hour, that's probably a few candles. So even if you're two things you can look for now, we're not reversing this as yet. I doubt we're making an expanding flat in here. If this reverse, the only possibility we'd look for is an expanding flat like this. I doubt that they're making that because normally in the big impulse to the upside, you don't do that. You do that mostly in the corrective part of the structure. And if we assume that we're completing the correction already, which is this, then this would not be that. If that happens and this becomes an expanding flat and we literally go back to the top there, then this will become the B part of that structure, which means there's going to be a lot more of corrections here before we come back here and go. See, that's how you can make your forecast, assuming that if this happened, then this is the likelihood of what is going to happen next. Now, there's a good chance this is just a correction to come and break this low. How deep that correction is going to be, well, we'll have to see. Right now, all we have is one single impulse going up. That's a single impulse. If it makes a flag, we'll buy. And by that, I mean, if it makes a deeper one, not the small one, it has to make a deeper one like this. And then we'll look for buy setups. Why? Because this could be a much deeper correction to the upside. We're still not going to exclude the expanding flat, although I personally don't think it's the expanding flat. Take off that. New Zealand is the same thing. And I think New Zealand, we were trying to sell yesterday. We had an entry order here when we had that sharp move. And literally, you can see that this has a deep correction. And when we see deep corrections like this, we think flats. So we broke the top. If we made another deep correction here, then that is definitely going to be a flat for downside. What if they go stronger up and make a small flag here? Well, then you're thinking bigger correction because now you can buy that. right? You can't buy this as a stand right now. 4 hour. Do we think this is going to go up from here? Well, let's see if we broke all the lows. No, we still need to break this low. And in this case, I'm not looking for that expanding flat, right? I don't think this here would make an expanding flat, putting it like this, right? I'm not looking at this and said, well, I think that's an expanding flat. It's possible, but I'm not looking for that. I think we've passed that stage already, and we're literally expecting this to just come to the bottom here. So go back to the 1 hour, wait for the sell setup. Can it be a deeper correction? Well, you've had deeper corrections like these and they still drop. So it's just a deeper correction for downside. The entry order stays where it is. If you put it higher, it would only be about 3 pips higher. That doesn't make any difference. What we want to see is I want this to pull back. I literally want to see this happen. And if I see that, I'll put this as a running flat, wait for this to go up, put an entry order here, try to get a sell from the top. See, that could happen today. So in the trading room by New York session, we'll be looking for this trade if it does that pattern. I think my traders see what I'm talking about, right? That this here, this 1, 2, 3 could, this one is pretty slow, right? I think we can all agree that this is pretty slow. So if at some point we get this and we drop here and we get something like this, we'll put this as a running flat. We'll watch for the upside and then we'll look for the drop. We'll try to get it from here. If not, we'll take it from here. So this is almost a sure sell. Swiss, well, remember yesterday, the reason we put that is that we assumed that it's going to be a expanding flat, and it turns out it is an expanding flat there. Kind of making expanders going up, but they're making another correction, which means they're just slowing down. That whole up move is slowing down really fast. Take this out. You can still trade this small correction, but you have to be aware that it might not go very far, right? You can trade the small correction here. You're taking this one, but just be aware that it might just do this and go back into deeper correction again or totally drop. So if you're taking that trade, that's the warning, right? That's the risk factor in that. Do I think this is going to take off very far? Nope, I don't think so. I don't know, maybe it will, but I don't see the contracting flat until I actually see that clearly. I'm not taking any buys at the top there. So now you have to be careful. Yesterday we were doing that because I think we had news and we thought this could spike. That was the day, but it didn't spike. So wait. CAD. Okay, so we didn't get to the top, so we can look for two possibilities here. Either this is making a bigger flat here and then we go, which is possible. You can see the flats and the pullback they make in each one of them as they try to go. Right, they're always deep pullback, deep flats, and all that. That's one option. The second option is this is a 1, 2, 3 something. Remember yesterday somebody asked if it's possible, and then they come back here. Now, if we get that, we'll have to, I don't know, we look at this as a 1, 2, 3. This would either be internal within this last wave or it would be a 4, 5. I think it's internal. It's much smaller than this. So we'll go with a 1, 2, 3 at the bottom here. Once it gets here, it still goes back up. Would this be the bigger correction in the whole structure? Absolutely. It's still the bigger correction. So we still have to have this and we still have to get that, right? So this will still go back up. It will still come back down and it will still go back up. See, all it does is we're still in this correction. Now, I don't think we're doing that. I think we're trying to go up. So we look at this as a possible flat forming here right now. It's pretty easy, right? You don't have to worry about it. There was a sell setup. The buy yesterday would have taken out. If you took this buy, that was this flat. We're looking at this flat here for a possible buy, right? With this one. And if you bought that, well, I think you know the rules, right? So you're out of that. You probably would have had an entry above the top. Take that off. You had a flag here. If you sold that flag, not a bad idea. Just be careful now. Take this off. That was a buy. I think this is probably the first impulse down. So if we actually get a small flag here, we'll sell it. We would assume that they might be going back to the low. And the same thing, we'll manage the trade slowly. If this comes back to the top here, and I believe that's what's more likely to happen, we'll either sell this or wait for it and then go for the upside, right? This flat would be pretty normal within this first impulse, right? Look at this first impulse. It's pretty huge, right? This is a pretty huge first impulse. So at some point, if you get a correction like this before you finish it, that's normal. That's way within the range. Yen, well, yesterday we looked at this and it did tag the low, which is what we thought it would be, a very slow move to the downside. 1, 2, 3. Did that. 1, 2, 3, we broke the low. So now we have this. That means there's a likelihood it could go one more up. If we're gonna buy it, you need a flag because this is a slow move, which means it could continue to go some more. I don't think it's the start of the downside as yet. Start of the downside, that's really slow. We're not gonna sell it. We're gonna wait for a proper flag that we can sell. I mean, a really good flag that you can sell, right? I'm looking at it more as a 1, 2, 3. We tagged the low. That's why we put the low yesterday. We didn't sell it, and there's a reason why we didn't sell it. You don't sell these structures as they're going down. You're looking for the upside. Now, if this stays here as a flag, we'll consider taking that trade, right? If it's not a flag, you have to take off this entry order because that is not where we'll take it, and we'll put this here. And now you can either only get it above here to be sure, or wait for a flag. And that means we're going to make one more impulse to the upside. Where to? Well, we'll see where that goes, right? It doesn't look like the start of the downside. I don't think so, because this one is okay. This, even the depth of that correction would not be a big problem. The problem is the slowness of this going down that I really don't like. This should have been dropping if that was the start of the correction to the downside, right? So I think it's morely a flat. We're going to go up one more and then we'll see from there. Euro in New Zealand, it's coming down and you can go for the sell. If you got any of the sells, you're good. We were looking for a running flat. If you put the entry order, you did well. It's not a running flat, but if you put the entry order, you're still in the trade, you're doing well. Keep a stop above the top, right? If it pulls back like this, we will go with the running flat. We'll still go with that as a running flat. And then we'll put the entry order here. So if you're not in the trade and you get that pullback, put the entry order, right? Because this one didn't really pull back sharp. If you pull the entry order, I would agree with that. It's a small flag. I still think we can get one sharp move up here and then we'll go for that sell, right? Now, you got to be careful with the sell here, because again, there's the two options we looked at yesterday. I think I did it in details in the YouTube video yesterday. I'm not sure, but the possibility of this being a running flat and this go up. So this would be a single drop, put it to break even, because it can go right back up. We'll be buying it. But if it continues to go, then we will go with this as a flat in there. The two options still exist, right? Either this is the low, with this being the contracting flat here, or this is a running flat in the middle, and this one didn't break the low, but we're going up. This is the top, and we're dropping, right? So the trade is, if it makes a really good flag here, I mean, if they stay longer, like if you got a, instead of just a running flat, you get a bigger correction here, that's a definite sell. But that would take about 8 to 10 hours. So that is likely going to be tomorrow, but that's a definite sell as well. So right now, today, we could get a trade. Either it's a running flat, we get a trade. I mean, this bigger running flat, we get the buy, or they pull back for a flag and we get the sell. For a running, smaller running flat in here and we get the sell. You're okay? If you took the sell, you're doing well. It's going. Let's see in the hourly what you do. You probably close and re-enter. Nope, really, this is the first pullback. So there's no reason to close and re-enter. That was the first pullback. This was the first pullback. We don't close on the first pullback, right? And the hourly, that none of them. And the hourly, this one probably stayed there for about 3 hours. If you close and you re-enter, no problem. But then the first pullback, if you didn't close, it's still okay. I think we could look at this either as a small correction of itself again, or either as, well, this is not running flat. That is too sharp. This is too sharp. So if it makes another small one, we sell again. Wait for a flag and sell again if you're out of the trade. So wait for this to make a flag and go for the sell again if it's not giving you the big trade. When it breaks this low, that's when you're careful, right? When it breaks the low. Euros, same thing. We didn't really get it. We're looking for running flat as well. But if you get a flag here today, it's probably starting to make a flag. If you get a flag, something like this or like that, sell, right? So you can count how many hours here. And if we get a flag here, we're selling. We'll see where that takes us. Euro Swiss. Well, you can say you get a flag. If you didn't sell that yesterday, you can put an entry to sell here today. And you're literally getting this. Right? So can we put it under the last impulse like the euro dollar? You can absolutely do that. It's the same trade setup. Right? And let's see where that takes us. This should come down some more and then go back up. So probably one drop like this one here, one drop like that. I'm not sure we'll make a bigger one, but we'll see. At least take the one drop, take the profit off, and we'll see where that go, right? Euro yen. If you sold it, you closed it, not on the first pullback, but then the second one, you definitely close it, put an entry order under the low. It's a bigger correction right now. it's still downside. This is one you definitely want to stay with. Europang, you might be getting a flag here for a short-term sell, right? If it makes a flag there, go for this sell for this one. And there's a chance we're going to break through that low. So the sell is worth going for. Pound Swiss, also a sell setup. Wait for that. It's correcting now. I think yesterday we warned about, trading the bottoms here with the smaller flags to help you get out. It's probably going to make a bigger correction here. And then we'll go for that trade. You want to put an entry order under the low? That's okay. As long as you know how to manage it if they're coming down slowly to tag it. You want the fast drop, not the slow move. Pound New Zealand, let's see. Okay, if you take the trade, you close that trade. I think you know why. You see how long you're tagged in the slow one. So what you would do is you'd want this to go back up. Give us this running flat, and then we'll put the entry. But you want the up move first, and then you put the entry over here for this drop. Right? Where would that take us? Well, it could still be corrections and one more up. But we'll take the trade just in case it's dropped to the bottom. Right? So it's worth going for that trade. Pound Yen. If you sold the Pound Yen, you probably took profit. This was the first sell. This was the second sell. This would be a break-even one. That would be one you close your profit. You can go for a third sell setup for me here. We'll try to see if we can get a better entry on this, especially if this become a bigger flat. I think it will be a bigger one. And then we'll go for that trade. What if it's a reversal? What if it's actually this trying to reverse? Well, not as yet, because this is making a flag, right? It could still be that running flat. We're not going to exclude it until we break through this low for, or we got a much bigger correction. But these small flags are sellable. You can still sell them. If at any point, this is a deep pullback, right? So if this comes here and, at any point we realize that it's going up sharp and we'll start to get flag here, then we will go with the buy. If this had a flag here, it would be a buy. But it has a deep pullback, so it's a sell. Right? It's mostly a sell for now. Tonkat, same thing. Take it as a break even. You've got some kind of a running flat there. I think it's pretty small. Put an entry under this low. Let's see. Yeah, that's just 2 hours. It could still be a more extended running flat. I don't like this piece here. So I think we could go back up sharp and then drop, which means the running flat could be bigger. Let's see. Put the entry under the low and we'll track that to see how it goes. Pound Aus. If you took the trade, you probably closed it also, because we're assuming whether that's all the correction or whether this is it. If you're still in the trade, put it the break even and put an entry here. Now, if you're not in the trade or you hadn't taken the trade, wait for this to pull back. And if we get this as a running flat, we'll take that trade. If it makes a flag here, we'll sell it. So wait for a flag, wait for a running flat, take the trade. Right? Could it be a running flat for upside? Well, we don't have a trade on that as yet. If we think this is a running flat here for upside, we don't have a trade on that. This could also be an expanding flat. That's the option we looked at yesterday, right? So any flag here we sell, any pullback like this, we put an entry order, any pullback with a correction, we start buying. The buy is limited. The buy is short term. The sell is a long-term trade, which means it's going to break this low. Aussie Swiss. Yep, we're going up back. So any flag here should have been a buy, right? This is doing exactly what we wanted to do. We've got this. We're looking for this, and then we might be looking for that unless we put that one with this, right? So at least we need a move up, right? This could be a move up. This is a deeper correction. So a flag here would have been a buy. If you get another flag here, we go for a buy. Let's see if we get it today. There was one. If anybody took the buy, that's great. If you actually took the buy here, this was a small flag, but if you took the buy there, no problem. Give it a few more hours here, and we go with that buy to the upside. I'll put an entry order for a buy, but it's not ready for the buy as yet, just to remind us that there's a buy setup there, right? It's not ready. Even on the 15, I don't think it's ready. Yep, too small. This one was good on the 15, but that one is too small. So just wait some more consolidation, we take the trade. Aussie Yen. Is there a buy setup to the upside? Let's see. It could be. If you look at this as the running flat, I'm not sure where the hell we put this. We still have to figure that out. I don't see the contracting flat here. We'll relook at it. Maybe two contracting flats. I'm not very clear with that. So I'll leave it like this for now. If you're not sure about it, wait until eventually you'll see the pattern. Definitely, I wouldn't be going with a sell here as yet. I'll probably sell the dollar yen, if anything, rather than this. Because potentially this could be a running flat. You don't want to exclude this possibility of this running flat. Right? So if they get a flag here, we go for the buy. Pound yen and Aussie yen has a very similar structure. Aussie CAD. Okay, that was supposed to be a buy. Let's see what happened to it. Yeah, you take it off. You can take that off. Can we put an entry order here? Not as yet, because we're making a running flat, right? You can see that this flag here is going to probably come here, come back here, and then go. So if you get this running flat, a regular flat or running flat here, we go for the buy, right? So we'll see where that takes us. It looks like it's going up slowly, but this moves like that. If you go back and look at a lot of the moves, look at the start of this move down. If you go back and look at the start of this up move here, right? This was very, very slow moves until it takes off. So this one here was very, very slow as well. It was very, very slow as well. So yep, look for that buy setup. Wait for a nice flag and then take the trade to the upside. If it's going down, leave it alone. So this one, we're deciding whether this is going to be an expanding flat. I think it's also possible it's an expanding flat. Wait for this to make a flag and then go for that trade. That's good. New Zealand Swiss. This was the sell, take that off. We're looking for a buy now. So if you get a flag here and you need a flag before you can go for that trade, we're looking for this move up. Right, we're looking for that move up now. So if we can get this move here, that would complete this one. We'll have to get one more move down to complete the entire flat if we're going up. Right, if we think that is some kind of a consolidation for upside. If not, this could totally drop. So we buy first and then we look for a sell. Let's see if we get a flag there. If we get a flag, that would be a buy. There was a flag here, but that's gone. So wait for another one. Go for the buy. New Zealand CAD. I think we were going to break the low. We're hoping we should break the low. Take this off. It's not. It didn't drop. Put it that way. So there's a consolidation going on here. Let it finish this. Make another move up, and then we look at this as a possibility for a sell, just like this one, right? Possibility for a sell. Let's see if we get it. New Zealand yen. Like all the yen pairs, like the pound yen, like the pound yen, like the Aussie yen, like the pound yen, Aussie yen, and now the New Zealand yen. There, for high probability, this is some kind of a take off. That this was a sell. Take that off. It is some kind of a running flat. I really don't see it as a contracting flat. It's possible this is a contracting flat here. Right, this here is a contracting flat. Because this is sharp, that's the end of the move and we're going down. So let's keep both of those open. Let's keep both options open. If this here becomes more of a flat, we'll put the sell entry or we'll sell it. But if we get a flag here, we're definitely looking for that buy, right? Because the confusing part in especially this one and the Aussie yen is that in the middle, you do have that potential for contracting flats. Whereas in the pound yen, we don't have that potential. I don't see the pound yen as a contracting flat. I mean, we have to relook at it, but I don't see that potential there. This one is pretty clear. You could call that a contracting flat. So if we get the sell, we take it. If we get the buy, we take it. Kadian? The same here. If you sold this, you close it. I think we can look for a sell here. But this also, do we look at this as a running flat? I think it's very, very clear. We could probably look at this as a running flat. So we can look for the buy setup here as well as the sell, which means if at any point you get a flag here, or if it goes up and make a flag, we're going to take the buy. If it stays here and consolidate, we'll be selling. In this case, we don't have anything in the middle for a contracting flat, but the assumption would be this could be all the correction of its own because this one wasn't a sharp move down, right? That could be all the correction. I think two of them have this possibility, the dollar yen and the CAD yen, where that could be all the correction because it's not a one sharp straight move to the downside. We'll see which one dictates, and it's easy, just wait for the confirmation, take the trade. It doesn't matter which one turns up, which one gives you the confirmation. CAD Swiss. Well, we'll have to wait. This might be a bigger flat. This might be another flat like this. All right. With an impulse, we're in this B wave. Let it, if it does that, come back here. We're gonna go for the buy. Right. I think some of you remember this buy. So we'll see if we go. This was a buy, this was a buy. So we could go for those buys. We'll wait for them. Swiss yen. This is the only one where we don't have that potential because this small move in here definitely fits that for a running flat. So this is the only one that the downside seems much better than the upside. And that's why we took the sell, close, but re-enter here. Close, put back the entry. If you want to keep it, put it at break even. Let this come back down, put it at break even. But I think most of you might have closed that already, right? Close, re-enter. Let's go. And this. Well, wait for it's correcting here. So this was like that. It's correcting here. So this would probably be an up. Right? Just wait for the correction. Put an entry for the buy. You could literally put an entry right now because you might assume that that's only correction. I put an entry for the buy. Now the question is, should we just go through like we normally do in our webinar because it's pretty long, or should we do it in two parts? I think let's do it in two parts for YouTube because most people watch just the crypto, they don't watch Forex. So we'll split it into two parts. I'll end it here. Thank you very much. For my traders, see you in the room. I'll close this. See you in the room in 5 minutes.